Last week's perfect score for Topi shows he isn't going to rest on his laurels. When opportunities come, he's there to grab them. But while Willow Springs was one flavor throughout the lap, VIR will give you every challenge imaginable. Who comes away the winner? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The last few years have seen a facelift for VIR on iRacing, but little has changed in the layout. Let's take a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Virginia International Raceway. Only a short trip away from the state's border with North Carolina, this track has had the rare blessing of being resurrected from the dead. After closing for a quarter century, once it was rebuilt, it quickly began to draw major sports car series to its halls. The new owners didn't skimp on refurbishing the place either. An impressive 5 versions are available on iRacing with a range between 1 and 4 miles in length between them. With that much pavement, the plethora of corners have earned some colorful nicknames. The horseshoe kicks things off right away with a never-ending double apexer that tends to suck the greedy out into its runoff. Later on, the climbing S's force you to thread the needle before spinning you out into the steep drop at South Bend. Then, of course, there's Oak Tree, which sadly no longer sees its namesake landmark on the inside of the turn, but still retains its frustrating difficulty. Let's not forget one of the scariest obstacles at the end of the lap, the roller coaster. The incredible speed drivers carry up into this blind braking zone is what causes it to require such immense bravery to get the most out of the lap. While passing can be tricky here, the long backstretch nicknamed Madison Avenue and the lengthy front stretch do tend to offer enough of a draft that you can still give a go at a pass. Still, track position is usually an important factor in most races. With the picturesque backdrop of the Appalachians around them, fans are not left wanting when they come to watch drivers face off at this historic track. It's no wonder the circuit has found success in its second chance at life. A lot of elevation change, a lot of different styles of corners, Joey. I do love what this track brings for the drivers.
It is one of my favorite places in the world. I lived out there just a couple hours in Virginia. 20 turns, 3.27 miles in length, just on the Virginia-North Carolina border. And like you heard Joe saying, plenty of elevation and a little bit of something for everybody here at this VIR circuit. I think most noticeably, the climbing S is always probably the most popular spot to watch the races. And then Oak Tree, you got to make sure to get that corner right. We don't have the Oak Tree here in the simulator, but that turn is still so important. Turn number 12 down there as it leads you onto that long back straightaway. The roller coaster section at the top of turn number 14 is a good passing opportunity, and then it is downhill all the way through Hogpen to finish the lap.
So that is what they're up against, but here is where things sit now that we're past halfway through the season, starting towards the downhill, if you will. Marco Sanfilippo, a little less than a win ahead of Topi Cortinemi, and that was after scoring a 0 because he wasn't around for Willow Springs. But Topi Cortinemi is going to find himself a little bit closer once Marco has to drop a few weeks. And of course, one of those is going to be the 0 that he didn't get any points last time out. Now, Jason Clapper all the way up to 3rd, incredibly. It's very impressive to see how high he's climbed this season, but he's only 11 points ahead of Dylan Freckleton. So that fight going to be a fierce one, no doubt. Watch out for the battle as well down between Gernot Friesche and trying to keep ahead of Brandon Roseborough, along with Bjorn Ackerman, who's been having a very, very good season. Finally, unfortunately, had a bit of a hiccup last time out and was on for an incredible finish. Would be much higher up in the points if it wasn't for the DNF that he wound up having. But that is the F1 standings. We also have an F2 championship that we run in this series.
Same car, different I rating. Right now, Tomas Bartfai is leading by 20 points, but the battle is actually for second place. You see only 4 points separates John Stevens and Daniel Gallus, and Kirk Clapper not too far behind himself as well. Things stay relatively tight from there on out, outside the top 5. including Thomas Silbernagel, Yanni Lehman, Manning Grinnan, Ben Summers, Jason Krakowiak, and Bruno Araya. Those are the 10 competitors, at least in the top 10 for that F2 driver standings.
They also run a teams championship, much like real life. It's 2 drivers per team. SEO 9000 still far and ahead of everybody else. Boskus and Stevens nearly half the points back. In fact, I think they are more than half the points of the SEO 9000s. From there, March Grand Prix team with Frisha and Araya aren't too far back. TVR Racing about an equal distance. However, that's only Dylan Freckleton, so he's been doing an impressive job by himself to bring them as high as they are. The Minardi team just 11 points behind that 4th place TVR Racing team. From there, as you'd expect, it starts to tighten up. But so far, it's been everybody trying their best to see if they can stop SEO 9000, but unable to do it so far. Let's go over the race details, Joey. Let's let the audience know what we've got in store for today.
Round 8 of 12 today at VIR. 22 laps is what the competitors are going to be doing. An open setup, which means if you don't like the way the car drives, open up the garage tab and tweak and tune on it. Here at VIR, I think it's going to be more of a medium downforce, trending towards the lower downforce side. No spare car, so if you pick up any damage, you have to live with it. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points, and there's a lot of grass out here at VIR, so if you do go off the racetrack, as long as you keep it off of the walls, which you can reach, they're pretty far out there, you can kind of reel it back onto the track and keep going.
Sometimes you might find yourself a ways off the track, though, with how long you can slide out here. Now, interestingly, with the fight between Marco and Topi, we don't have Topi here again today. He's already got a 0 from earlier in the season at Zolder, and he only scored 2 points at Road America. So he's got a little bit less of a safety net, and he's behind in the points. This is going to hurt, not see him. Zorek coming around, looks like he is trying to set his first timed lap, and his first one, unfortunately, that he did cross and should have counted, got deleted as he went off somewhere. So he'll have to circle back and try once more and hope that this one stays within the boundaries. What about the qualifying for AJ Roper there on the left-hand side of the screen? 2nd place. That's phenomenal out of the 10 car.
That's a very good qualifying effort. We'll see him try to start from the front row as Daniel Gallus works his way through what is called NASCAR bend here. Turn number 3, head up to turn number 4. Probably the slowest section on the VIR racetrack. And in these cars, you kind of have to tiptoe through it. And then right here, just trying to squeeze on the throttle as soon as possible, because from here all the way up until turn 10, it is flat out on the floor.
On board, watching with Daniel Gallus through the climbing S's. Let's see what it sounds like. Little couple downshift, brush on the brakes through South Bend. And you really have to get on the binders up through Oak Tree as he looks to try and get the best exit possible up Madison Avenue, using as much of that runoff as he can.
And, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to finish this lap. I see 25 seconds. We are on the back straightaway, but it's going to be very, very close if Gallus can actually put down a lap time. I was watching Yerne on my screen. He's crossing start-finish right now and actually does not put down a lap time, so that's not going to change the order at all. 10 seconds remaining for Gallus here.
Yeah, that's not enough time. He's not going to be able to reach it. He's going to have to start from the back. Frisha moved onto the front row ahead of AJ Roper. Still doesn't take away from an excellent qualifying from the 10. But Gernot, could he return to the top step once again? We'll have to wait and see, as the clock has now ticked down to 0 here in qualifying, and the grid is locked in. So Marco Sanfilippo on the pole position today, with Gernot Frisha starting next to him. After that, it is AJ Roper in P3 and Danilo Sanfilippo starting in 4th. Nathan Finnegan will be P5. John Stevens in the 6th position. Tomasz Bartfai will be in the 7th spot. After that, it is J.D. Rodriguez in a P8. Patrick Samaran will be P9. Row 5 is rounded out by Jean-Francois Boskus.
Then we've got Bjorn Ackerman starting in 11th place with Thomas Silbernagel next to him in 12th. Mickey Friesen in 13th with Manning Grinnan in 14th. Barry West, the big cat, in 15th. Bruno Araya in 16th. Ben Summers 17th. Keith Herner 18th. And then Yanni Lehman and Robert Simpkins 19th and 20th on row 10.
Arnold Cook is going to be starting 21st. Russell Hamilton in the 22nd spot. You've got Art McEwen on the inside of the next row, followed by Byron Long to his outside. Then it's Juan Jimenez, the last one to set a time. There on back, it is all drivers set by their iRating. Zorek, Alcalde, Gallus, Villershausen, and Couture. 30 drivers racing here, and it's a single split. So everybody all together, it's a little bit lower iRating than what we've seen in the past, but that could mean we get some traffic towards the end of the races. Looks like we just need 2 more cars to line up before we get going here today, and pretty good air temperature and track temperature, it looks like, Joey.
Yeah, not too bad at all, and the wind is pretty far down, only about 2 miles an hour on the wind. So the conditions, nice to go racing here at VIR, and I think we got the revs up.
Indeed we do. Lights are up as the drivers get ready to go, and the green flag is out off the line. Uh-oh, it looks like Sanfilippo is not going once again. This seems to be a trend with him often. Gernot Freisha trying to come around the outside. They are absolutely diving it into the first corner, but thankfully nobody seems to be making contact in behind them. It is Sanfilippo who comes away with the lead, but Roper going to try to take that second from Freisha. He's denied.
Yeah, does the over-under coming from Roper, though, headed towards this tricky turn 4-5. He backs out of it, and now it's Marco Sanfilippo and Gernot Freisha all in a single file line as we go through the lower S's for the first time and head towards those climbing uphill S's. Oh, chaos in the back.
Oh, no, a lot of cars looks like they're involved in this one. And I'm trying to see if anybody had to take a tow. Thankfully, it looks like everybody's able to get away with it. Although, I spoke too soon. Somebody is on their lid now. And that looks to be Russell Hamilton. So that's day over almost immediately for Russell.
Yeah, and, you know, we'll get another look at it as the cars complete their first lap here. Is watching Daniel Gallus right now in the number 13 car head up and over turn number 10. One of the cooler corners, in my opinion, on this racetrack, but it is very, very tricky and high speed. These cars on the cold tires might have to get warmed up through there.
Certainly. And, Arnold Cook pulling off to the side. And don't see a slowdown penalty for him. Car must be damaged. Meantime, back up to Tomasz. This is in 8th position, and he's chasing on Bjorn Ackerman. Bjorn wanting to try and make up for lost opportunities last week in California. And it looks like it's a good tow for the 16 on the 14, but Bjorn is going to be able to hold him off down to the breaking of the horseshoe.
I think most importantly, though, is that Ackerman is already up 4 positions from where he started. He got a little bit of a close call, went in deep there in turn number 1, but was able to keep it on the racetrack here and be in lap number 2. All of these cars are pretty stacked close together here, and through this first sector at VIR, it's all about limiting the mistakes. Silbernagel almost got rear-ended there. That was incredibly close from Mickey Friesen.
Hopefully they're going to be able to get away with it, but Thomas isn't even watching those mirrors. He's looking forward to John Stevens in front of him, and he's getting close, but it's going to be tough to try and stay there as they're coming up through the climbing S's now, and he's going to get the arrow wig through South Bend, so nothing happening there. In the meantime, sounds like we have a replay of what happened at the start of this race. This looked like it began somewhere around here out of the left hook and into the snake. Already we've got cars off. And then Russell Hamilton, gets absolutely shoveled off to the side. Car goes over and say goodnight.
I like that term, shoveled, because that's literally what these cars do when they make the contact with those low noses. I'm going to have to steal that one from you, Joe Peak.
You're welcome. But Thomas Silbernagel still trying to steal P10 from John Stevens. But now John is getting close to Patrick Samaran as well. I wonder if we're going to see some of these trains form out here. We're stepping backwards, though, back to Ben Summers. Down in 22nd. Well, in the meantime, one of his rivals goes completely off. Art McEwen going to give up 2 spots.
This will be interesting to kind of watch this black and blue number 22 recover throughout the race. Ben Summers was one of the cars that kind of got pushed around at the very, very beginning. You see Araya come into pit lane with a little bit of damage, I think, on the right rear of the car there. So back to Ben Summers. I think that he's going to be moving forward. He's going to be trying to make those passes, recovering from that early mistake.
Back to the battle for P10. What might be for P9 now. Samaran just in front. Silbernagel behind them. They've also got Friesen, who you talked about, nearly getting the back at Thomas a little bit earlier, trying to keep up with them. Let's see who's able to stay close through the South Bend this time and up into Oak Tree. Difficult to pass into Oak Tree on top of it, as it's got that sort of kink into the first apex and then the second apex. Everybody trying to line it up and shoot off the corner down the back straightaway. Great run from Samaran.
I think they're all kind of equal distant apart, though. It's not going to be enough to pull them along in the slipstream to make that move. But I want to kind of expand your point, as Stevens is closing it in on Samaran. If you have two cars with differing downforce levels or differing setups, I think that's when you get the unorthodox passes here at VIR. It's a little bit more of a lower downforce area, right? These corners aren't incredibly long. They're shorter radius turns, so you're not in the car with a bunch of load on it for a long time. You want to be going as fast as possible down the straightaway. That's when we kind of get that single file. But if we get two cars with differing setups, we're going to see some interesting action and racing around this place.
A little bit of a look to the inside on Samaran from Stevens. He seems a bit deep on the brakes. Maybe he's got a little more of that downforce to try and take him into the corners. He's holding tight to him up through NASCAR bends, but there's just no place to go in this part of the lap.
See if you can avoid jumping too much over those curbs. These cars definitely like to be flat on the ground, and the more you bounce them over, the less that tire is in contact with the road. We check in a little bit more on Jean-Francois Bosquis, chasing down Barry West here in this, call it yellow and white number 9. Coming up through the S's, I mentioned this is probably the most famous section to watch the races from. It's pretty incredible watching cars. Doesn't matter if they're Formula cars or GT cars, haul the mail up through there.
Yeah, it certainly is a scary one. And coming out of Oak Tree, West is keeping him at arm's length. Nicely done, as the camera getting quite a bit of shake from the car streaming by here. And Bosquis is doing everything he can to get back the spots that he lost at the start. He's down 4 from where he began. We're only on lap 4.
I know that the camera shake might have seemed a little excessive, but I was watching the speeds. VIR is a very, very fast racetrack. These cars are approaching 180 miles an hour on the back straightaway. They were doing about 175, 177 there, this pair that we were watching. And here on the front straightaway, even before we get to the start-finish line, there's 165, 170 miles an hour as they cross the start-finish line. And once again, 175 defensive on the brakes from Bosquis.
He's feeling like he needs to try and get on the attack here with Barry West looking for that inside line. West goes a little deep and he makes a mistake. He's going to try and keep it out of the barriers, and he's got just enough grass before he's there. Here's the onboard as he tries to recover, and a few more spots are going to slip away.
Oh, goodness. He's got to get back on track, and in iRacing, that can be a little bit difficult, cleaning those tires off, making sure they're up to temperature and everything is all good. And Barry West now finds himself sandwiched in the middle of a 5-car pack here. He's going to have to kind of get back up on the horse and get to it.
What I find interesting is, even despite the screen not being super easy to tell what's going on there, you can see how dirty his visor is right now after that off. Just when he moves his head, you can kind of see bits of it. I'm sure he's got a button he's going to want to try and press, and it looks like he has now, and pulled one of his tear-offs off.
And I love the interior shots there of getting the Barry sim room. I saw 3 pedals. I saw an H-pattern shifter as we watch Yerne try to make a little bit of a move here. He's got Keith Herner, also Robert Simpkins giving chase, but I thought that this number 3 car, just kind of given his I rating, was going to be able to make his way up a little bit quicker than what he has.
He's still gained 8 positions, not too bad. Daniel Gallus behind him is up 9, but he's a long ways back by about 5.5 seconds. There he is now coming around onto the main straight. He's trying to run away from Robert Simpkins there in that red machine. But Gallus obviously in the same position, unable to set a lap time and having to climb his way through. Barry West climbing out of the hole of the grass once again, and it's not been a good lap for him.
No, it hasn't. I'm looking at what happened here, and I think he just got in a little bit too deep into turn number one, kind of locked it up and had to drive it straight off of the racetrack. So maybe just still coming to grips with VIR. I had mentioned the top speeds. This place is not slow.
Yeah, it is extremely quick. Especially you can see her along Madison Avenue, long straight, runs almost the entire length of the racetrack. And coming up to it, he's got Danilo Sanfilippo in front of him. I think last time we saw Danilo was back out at Donington, and that was not a good day for that number 4 driver. And Finnegan going to try and see if he can demote him here, but he's got to watch out because Bjorn Ackerman is in his mirrors.
All just sitting in the tow, trying to get that run on the competitor in front of you. Checking out the mile an hour, and yeah, these guys are hitting 170 miles an hour in the draft, so big time numbers when it comes to the top speed here. It's good to see Bjorn Ackerman tagged onto the back of this one. You had mentioned how good his run was last week at Willow Springs. It was a shame to kind of have that all taken away from him near the end of it, but he's got a good solid top 10 going here today.
Yep, he's going to try and see what he can bring home with this opportunity. Is Byron Long back down in 23rd, getting very close here. And their fight through the end of the lap. That is Jimenez just in front of him, starting from the back. And with the 30 on his, kind of the opposite of what we saw out of Yerne, just in front of him with a 3. Theoretically, Jimenez should be a bit far down. Now, we've got a replay. I wonder if this is the crash that Keith Turner had. Oh, and yeah, it looks like Zorek was actually involved in this one. Oh, he gets into the back of him. Keith with a massive shunt into the tire barrier that they have since placed there since the last iteration that they had here at VIR. And unfortunately, while it softens the blow a little bit, it also means that you hit something a lot quicker than you did before.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of miscommunication there as they were trying to get that pass done. But this pass right here has been set up all 8 laps so far. Marco Sanfilippo has officially run away up in front, about 2.5 seconds out there. But Gernot Frische is really starting to feel the pressure from this orange number 10 of AJ Roper. You had mentioned how great his qualifying effort was, and he's turning that into a good race.
AJ's been making steady progress, that's for sure. He's continuing to hound Gernot Frische, and that is something I'm pretty sure every driver in the Lotus 79s would feel proud of. If you can hang with Gernot Frische, you're going to feel pretty darn good because he has the most championships, the most wins of anybody. He's a very highly regarded figure. And right now he's running in second, though, and that's where he started. He's keeping AJ just behind him enough to keep him from attacking, but that was a pretty good run coming out of Oak Tree.
Yeah, it really was. And now Roper is just sitting there in the slipstream. He's gaining on Frische. Frische moves to the left side of the track. Now a little bit of a move back to the right. Roper's got the inside going to the roller coaster. Late on the brakes, little bit of a wiggle, gets it stopped and up into second place. That was a textbook move from AJ Roper on the limit, but got it done.
I was going to say, he was right up against it, but he held it, and more importantly, he did not lose time with that little bobble and is trying to run away now. So Gernot Frische, can he fight back? Or are these two just closely matched and are stuck together? And it's whoever has that track position. Down into the horseshoe, not close enough to try and re-attack on him. Behind them, JD Rodriguez only about 1.5 seconds back. So watch out for that as we return to Barry West again.
Yeah, and you could mention JD Rodriguez as we watch this other group here. Has actually been doing a fantastic job. I think that maybe his qualifying not quite representative of his race pace. He's moved up a handful of positions, and like you said, has now actually overtaken. Gernot Friesche must have had a problem on the racetrack that I'm seeing, because he just fell from third to fourth. JD's back up into a podium position.
Very un-Gernot-like, but lost a spot and then seems to have made some sort of major error. There is Gernot, and he's at least still running in fourth. And don't see any damage on the car.
So I found it, Joe, and it's in the lower S's. We're going to get a replay of it right here. He just gets a little bit too much on the throttle. The car steps out right here, tries to save it. Boom, right into the tire wall. I don't know how much actual damage the car's got. You see the right rear definitely towed in, but he's up to pace out there in the simulator, so I think it might be more visual than anything.
Interesting. Yeah, just a bit strange. Oh, the car looked like it was certainly handling weird coming down the hill there. Yeah, that is an odd bit of damage.
It to pit lane.
Does he have a he has a meatball flag. Oh, that is a real shame for what was a good race. Is Juan Jimenez. In the meantime, I was talking about how good he had been doing up till now. Looks like he's slipped off the track and falls back to 24th.
Gernot Friesche in the penthouse car brings it to his pit stall down there with that broken right rear, and he's going to have to watch this one from the sidelines and watch all the fun going on the playground. This is the number 12 and the number 20 car. John Stevens also battling it out with Patrick Samaran for what would be 8th place position now that Friesche is out.
Yeah, Bartfy must have overtaken both of them because I think he was behind earlier, but Patrick still in the 8th spot. John Stevens just behind, following him under the bridge to the climbing S's now, flat out through this portion, weaving back and forth to try to straight line it as much as you can and then set up the run through South Bend over the crest as they plunge back down the hill and then try to use that compression uphill, breaking into Oak Tree.
They both get the car slowed down, and if anything, Samaran gets an excellent exit out of Oak Tree. And it's so important because we've talked about this very, very long back straightaway. If you can get that little bit of a sprint off of the line, it can kind of extend that gap. And here comes Stevens in that slipstream. I see almost 5 miles an hour faster. He poked the nose down in there, but he just didn't have the track positioning to really make the lunge on an attempt.
Man, that 20 car just looks wicked fast in a straight line. I get the feeling if he gets a good run somewhere, he's going to be able to finally get by. Checking out Mickey Friesen now, down in 11th. That's Thomas Silbernagel just in front of him, coming up to the braking zone of the horseshoe. Definitely too far away right now, but he's keeping them in check as they approach the braking of this 180-degree turn. Actually, slightly more than 180 degrees, I think, that you wind your way around and then it switches right back into NASCAR.
I do love this racetrack. You know, I probably have more real-world laps here than any other racetrack out there that I've driven. It's so fast. It's widened quite a bit since the last, call it 20 years or so, and I think that plays well to the raceability on this place, but I think the 79s and how fast they are, it fits this track just so perfect.
Absolutely. So many medium and high-speed corners through here. They just love that and grip the track. Daniel Gallus now up to 16th position. Got one more in front of him, Manning Grinnan. Now, I saw you had made a note earlier. Manning may have actually taken part in one of the incidents we saw at the very beginning.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Very, very close there between Gallus and Grinnan. So back to your point there. It was that opening lap at turn number 4. Manning got into the back of Ben Summers, unfortunately, as Gallus now makes the move in turn number 11. That's an aggressive move, and you saw directly behind lots of lockup as well from Barry West and Robert Simpkins, all trying to get the car slowed down. And if anything, Manning is now under threat from that other yellow and white car. That's Barry West, all up in the slipstream. He's going to go to the driver's left side of the racetrack, which turns into the racing line here, and he's way deep on the brakes, takes another pass away from Manning.
2 spots in 1 lap. Grinnan struggling a little bit at this stage, but I tell you, Daniel Gallus, between him poking his nose into the S's and then making that move into the Oak Tree, you can tell that he was out of position. He's not wasting any time. He's trying to make decisive moves, and he's already running away from that pack.
And wasn't he the driver that just barely didn't get his lap time in qualifying? So that makes sense.
Yeah, he made a little bit of a mistake somewhere. Not sure if he just wasn't paying attention or something happened and he had to go back and restart his qualifying. But whatever the case, it cost him in the end. And at least he's gotten close to where his iRating seems to imply he should be. He's got the 13 on his car and he's sitting 15th. But this man might have the number 2 on his car, but he has been leading since lap 1 and has run away by about 5 seconds over AJ Roper. He's been the one that's been collecting tons of points this season. He's got a huge lead, but he's going to have to give some of those good finishes away. Did AJ Roper just have something happen? He's disappeared.
Now he...
Oh,
is he... Oh my
him.
goodness, he's in a tire wall somewhere, Joe.
This is... I was trying to make out that might be out of the left hook. And I think he had some sort of computer issue because he just blinks out and then comes back in, almost like maybe he had a black screen or something. Wow, just crazy stuff happening at the front of the field. We've lost Gernot Frisha in an uncharacteristic mistake. AJ Roper has now mysteriously had some sort of computer issue that has cost him. And no, this was not in the left hook.
Here, this is exactly what I thought happened. I know that we're going to get a blink right about here. He disappears, but you could see the wheel cranked far left. If it was a hardware failure, that's exactly what happened. If it wasn't, if you got loose down there and hit that compression, that can also shoot your car off to the left side.
Wow. A gutting few words from AJ Roper in the Sim text chat. Guess I didn't fix my PC yet. That's, that about solves the mystery there.
Yep. Sure enough, and you saw the wheels cranked far left there as well as the blink. Spot on, Joe.
So, JD Rodriguez now up to second, and we've got 2 Sanfilippo's on the podium now. So Danilo might actually get his recompense from having such a bad day back over in the UK, as he could get to spray the champagne today. He's got a full 4 seconds over Nathan Finnegan, who sits behind him. And more than anything, in the team's championship, this might be the death knell for anybody having any sort of hope of catching them.
Agreed. It's tough when you got 2 teammates that are just out there dominating the point staves, and take them while they're on the table, right? If everybody else is faltering and making mistakes, you might as well grab all of that candy in that bucket, and that's exactly what Sanfilippo's are trying to do in a nice way. They're not stealing any candy. They're just saying, hey, you're dropping it on the ground. I'm picking it up.
Still got Halloween on the mind over here as we watch the Italian work his way through the snake. Out of drivers that have gained a lot of positions, though, we definitely have a few. Gallus, no surprise, is one of them, up 14. And Miguel Alcalde also in the number 7 is up 14, just in front of him. JD Rodriguez, and I really like these sort of, I don't know if these are faux Ferrari colors, because they didn't quite make out what he had written on the back there, but this feels like the sort of die-cast toy car we'd have as a kid. Yes. that is trying to look like a Ferrari.
You know what it looked like coming at you down the back straightaway. On the side, it's a little bit more Ferrari-esque, but it totally looks like an Incredibles car.
It does kind of have that look to it. I think it says Ferrari Men on it.
Yeah, I'll have to go look to see what is written on the side pod of it. But it is a neat paint. I always thought, and you know what? Looks like a bowl of ramen on the front there.
Ferrari ramen, I think.
There it is.
Ferrarman.
Ramen.
That is fantastic. That might be one of my favorite spoof liveries now. Well done, JD Rodriguez. He's going to have to go by some of the traffic as we come back to Nathan Finnegan here. And now that is lap traffic in front of him as well. Art McEwen, he's got a ways to get up to Sanfilippo, as I mentioned. McEwen going to just pull off to the side. But Nathan going to collect some valuable points with this 4th place spot himself. He's trying to keep away from Bjorn Ackerman, about a second and a half between the two of them. Again, Bjorn was looking at maybe a podium back at Willow Springs. I think a top 5 is still something to cheer for him.
And I'm actually going to play up this battle just a touch here because I think that between Finnegan and Ackerman, fourth and fifth place here, they're very, very similar on pace. If anything, Ackerman closes it in one lap and then Finnegan stretches it out the next. So it's a little bit like a rubber band out there. But if Finnegan makes a couple more mistakes, or if Ackerman just can lay down a couple really good laps, this 1.5 second gap will turn into a battle.
Certainly not quite the mythical drive the Unicorns car saw last week, but could easily turn into that if we have another little off by one of the cars in front of him. Robert Simpkins is up 4 spots. Looks like he's got a little bit of something brewing with Barry West in front of him. I wonder if West... No, he hasn't just gotten by him because we saw them together in this order a little bit earlier. So this is a battle that's basically been going on for a number of laps. We do still have about 8 or 9 to go.
I think kind of to your point, Joe, Barry might be working his way back up through some of these familiar faces that he's already passed once or twice, because we saw him kind of drive it off the road a couple times, once in turn number 1, and I can't remember where the other one was a little bit earlier. So judging by Barry's lap times, 137.0, that should kind of place him up another few positions higher from where he's currently running at.
There's Zorik, I think, has made it back out on the track and has returned to the pit lane. Don't know if that was due to another incident or not, but we'll try and find out. Samaran also had a bit of an off and lost a couple spots as we check out Boskus up to P10, back to where he began, which is actually where Barry West is. He's returned to where he qualified, so at least nothing gained, nothing lost for the big cat. But Jean-Francois, he is behind Mickey Friesen right now, about a second and a half between the pair of them. That is Mickey that you can see in the Nissan liveried Lotus just in front of him. But a bit of a poor exit there from Jean-Francois.
Just watching these cars go up and down this kind of hillside back straightaway, if you will. And it is long enough that if you're not paying attention, you can kind of think one of those crests is the roller coaster, and all of a sudden you find yourself stopped in the middle of the back straightaway. You got to keep your foot down all the way to the end there as we kind of watch him go down through the hog pen section here. It's always fun. If you are ever out in the mid-Atlantic section, go over to Hyperfest at VIR. They have big wheel races that start up at the top of the roller coaster and go down through hog pen.
I so would love to take part in that. By the way, behind them, guess who got back on the track and we didn't notice? Gernot Friesche, still running 11th in spite of that major hit. He must have a very, very quick pit team that was able to repair that car and send it right back out.
We're going to get a replay of, this is Robert Simpkins. This is, such a shame. It's going to get into the tire wall there. That's a very, very common place to make a mistake on the exit of turn number 10. All you do is simply carry a little bit too much speed on entry. It spits you out on the worst end on the driver's right. You bottom the car out and shoots you driver's left into the wall.
Yeah, that always scares me when I see cars just clip that grass coming off of there. It looks like a wild ride, and you kind of know what's coming. Something happened to JD Rodriguez. He's still showing second. Completely off at NASCAR bend. Car goes sideways, but he had a gap big enough over Sanfilippo that he still runs P2. It's down to 2.7 seconds between them now.
If anything, Marco, our leader, probably looks down and is like, holy smokes, that last lap must have been really good for myself. That gap all the way up to 19 seconds.
So Sanfilippo is far and away the man to beat today. There he is on your screen with a pretty hefty gap. And let's see, does he have... Yeah, it looks like he should have the fastest lap. Easily. Yeah, Frische's about 0.7 of a second away on his fastest lap. So 2 bonus points for the pole, 2 bonus points for fastest lap, and a perfect score for the win. Marco Sanfilippo going to strike back at Topi Cortiniemi.
To add to that, Marco's speed is not just in the race. In qualifying, his pole position time was nearly a second ahead of P2, which was Gernot Friesche. I think it was more like 8.85 seconds, so over 3/4 of a second separating first and second in terms of qualifying. I think that Marco has definitely shown up with a lot of speed here in Virginia.
Really incredible. It's kind of makes you wonder. Oh, and this is the other spot I think we saw Barry West have a bit of an off. He's going to find his way back on once again. I always found that to be such a difficult corner, finding the right braking, because I don't blame him for dipping his wheels off into the grass.
I'll nerd out a little bit about turn number 3. It's called a NASCAR bend. It really is kind of an arcing left-hand turn, and there's 2 ways to go about it, because you have to slow going in there. You can kind of straight line the braking zone and point it towards the barn, but then that sharpens your turn. The other way is to kind of have the car all the way out driver's right, call it the Darlington line, right? Ride it all the way along the outside of the racetrack and then arc it into the apex of turn number 3. But if you have any sort of wiggle on the edge of the racetrack, you find yourself in a position that Barry West was in on the outside of the racetrack.
And that's the thing that always gets me winding up in that barrier as well. Art McEwen currently up 3 as he just overtook Byron Long, I think. Yeah, Byron down in pit lane for some reason. And so you can see him. Looks like he might have already left the car and has called it a day since it's so late in the race. Only 4 laps to go. Manning grinning, still chugging along. Now down 3 from where he started. Unable to keep up with Barry West, but past Robert Simpkins, who has fallen down to 18th.
Gonna try to create a storyline here with Gernot Frische. His last lap time, a 1:35.2, was a full second faster than Jean-Francois Boscus, who's in front of him. Now, it's about 5 seconds between Gernot and Jean-Francois up there, and we've got about 3 laps remaining, so that math doesn't quite work out. However, if Gernot is really up on it, and if Francois makes maybe a mistake or 2, this could be a battle for the top 10. And I think that Gernot would love a top 10 after being in pit lane today.
Yeah, I mean, really impressive. I did not expect him. I thought he was essentially going to be out of the race, but he's getting back in it, and he's trying for every point he can get. And there's not much in the way of traffic in front of him to help him catch up. That was the one thing I was wondering if JF Boscus could maybe wind up getting slowed up by that, and that could play a part in this, but no dice on that end. They do have Russell Hamilton, but he's been mostly getting out of the way of the leaders, and as soon as I say that, he just got a little bit in the way of Boscus.
You know, we always talk about Jack David Spickett being JDS. I wonder if JFB is going to have to start making an appearance here with Jean-Francois Boscus, because you got to remember, he's with us week in and week out here. He's a regular competitor in these 79, so it's always good to see him out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little easier to say, certainly for our American brains, but coming up the hill just in front of them, Thomas Silbernagel on John Stevens. Now, were they not switched around before? I'm pretty sure they were.
They could have been. It could have been the blue car in front of the red car, but there's also another blue car behind him, so I'm not sure, Joe.
Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brains and remember whether or not that was the opposite order there for a bit. But looks like John Stevens is going to lead the way for the time being. A little bit of lap traffic just in front of Danilo Sanfilippo down the main straight. Now down to 2 laps to go. Still sitting in third. And we did have a change for position as Silbernagel goes by Stevens.
Yeah, so what happened? John Stevens made a lockup going into the roller coaster, and Thomas Silbernagel just saw the open door and said, "Thank you very much," took away the position. They were side by side, I think even banged side pods going down towards Hogpen, but it's also brought together Mickey Friesen in that blue and red Nissan-themed number 11 right in the mirror.
Yeah, they definitely made a little bit of contact, and his woes are not over by any stretch of the imagination. AJ Roper has someone to commiserate with. Oh no, and that's a spin for John Stevens, off course and thankfully out of the way. But he has to wait patiently before it clears up enough to get going once again. A lot of positions lost. That's going to promote Gernot Frische up into 10th.
Yeah, it does move Gernot up into 10th, and I got to give props to Mickey Friesen out there to avoid that as Marco Sanfilippo. Wow, he's already on the start-finish straightaway. He gets the white flag, so only one lap remaining for our leader, but he is 24 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. The majority of this field still has another lap and a half remaining.
Yeah, he's so far away of everybody. I was trying to say earlier that AJ Roper has someone to commiserate with. Byron Long is out because according to him, it's the GPU. I can't quite quote exactly what he said, but apparently his computer also costing him here today. Sanfilippo up through the snake for the last time. 23-second gap down to Rodriguez.
I think the word you were looking for, Joe, is gosh dang. Gosh dang GPU from Byron Long down there. Marco Sanfilippo goes across turn number 10, bounces it over the curbs a little bit, but well within the limit here. The last time through Oak Tree, he sees a lap car directly in front of him get out of the way. No big deal. Past that number 22 and just a handful of corners remaining, and another win for Sanfilippo.
Just amazing what he's been able to do this season. He came out swinging from the get-go. Perfect score at Watkins Glen for round one. Since then, he's taken a number of wins, 4 to be exact. Make this number 5 here today with another perfect score to put himself as far out of reach as he can for the championship. Marco Sanfilippo wins at VIR.
Domination from that number 2 car. An excellent put-together race, as well as the qualifying to grab those bonus points. JD Rodriguez had that little bit of a mistake, and I saw a couple wiggles out of him, but he was able to kind of recover, finish in the second place. And if anything, it's been Nathan Finnegan chasing down Danilo Sanfilippo. He's not going to get there, but he tried to make a run at the end.
Yeah, that was a gain of 6 positions for JD. That was an amazing run out of him. Also, Gernot Frische, you were talking about trying to catch somebody. He's down to a second and a half left to go. If it was one more lap, I think we might have had a fight for that P9 with JFB. But looks like Boskus will be able to collect that 9th spot as he'll come to the line not too far behind Mickey Friesen as well.
Yeah, good for these guys to make sure their tires are nice and warm for that restart there at the end of the race. Celebrating as they go serpentining down the front straightaway. Daniel Gallus also recovering a little bit. Remember, he did not get that qualifying effort in. Looks like he will finish in 12th place here. And actually, it looks like he's going to move up just a little bit and finish there on the front straightaway.
Yeah. Both he and Miguel, 15 positions gained over the course of the race. Not too shabby from the pair of them. And Barry West will have to settle for what looks like P15 in the end on that one. Still, he had an action-packed race. There's no doubt about that one. We're going to get 16 cars finishing on the lead lap. And up at the top of them, it was Marco Sanfilippo with another victory. This time over JD Rodriguez. Danilo Sanfilippo makes it a 1-3 for the brothers. Nathan Finnegan just off the podium finishes 4th. Bjorn Ackerman from 11th to 5th. That's another one that deserves a lot of praise there, as Tomas Barkvi was P6 and Thomas Silbernagel was P7. After that, you've got Mickey Friesen in 8th, Jean-Francois Boskus 9th, and Gernot Frische rounding out your top 10.
John Stevens will finish in 11th place with the 2 biggest movers officially. Miguel Alcalde finishing in 12th, up 15 positions. Then Daniel Gallus also up 15 positions to finish in 13th place. Patrick Samaran slips back to 14th. The Big Cat finishes where he started in 15th. Manning Grinnan in 16th. Ben Summers 17th. The first car 1 lap down. Simpkins, Willershausen, and McCune rounding out the top 20.
Jana Lehman was 21st with Juan Jimenez in 22nd. Russell Hamilton, one of the last ones to finish this race in 23rd. Byron Long with a DNF, along with Zorek, Roper, Herner, Araya, Cook, and Couture. So a lot of cars getting eaten up by VIR today, unfortunately. And I think, let's see, no, we don't have anybody ready to chat with us yet. We'll give it a moment to see if Marco will come on over and talk to us about how this race went. But the one I want to chat with is definitely JD Rodriguez, because what a fantastic race to get a P2 today.
If I was to guess, though, Joe, I think that JD Rodriguez probably already has a bowl of ramen and a Ferrari race shirt on, watching the F1 race. I think it's currently going on from Interlagos right now. I've got it on the DVR, so no spoiler alerts in the comment section.
Exactly. I'm going to probably take off and watch that in a bit myself. But these drivers put on a pretty darn good show here. Let's hope we get some more real-world racing, giving us just as good as a race as we got here on GSRC. So we'll give it just a little bit more time before we call this one, if we don't get anybody coming in to chat with us here today.
Real fast, Joe, because, we always go over the points at the beginning of the show. Obviously, a good day for Marco Sanfilippo. One of the names that I was curious to see absent today was Jason Clapper. He's usually one of our biggest movers, and you had made a point that he was way up there in that F1 points championship. Was curious not to see him today.
Yeah, it was a bit strange that he wasn't around. I get the sense he doesn't really care about the points so much, the way that he and Kurt tend to not qualify. Bjorn Ackerman as well with a great finish. But unfortunately, we're not going to have a good finish in terms of interviews, as we're going to have to close it out today, which starts with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thanks to our team today, Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next week is going to be a brand new track, Cadwell Park, starting on Sunday, November 10th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Wow.